Now, philosophy. Professor John Lennox, a mathematician and philosopher at Oxford, has debated the world's most famous atheists, Richard Dawkins, Christopher Hitchens, and more. And in each debate, Lennox demonstrates that Christianity is not blind faith, but reasoned trust in a God who both created and entered his creation. He often argues that atheism undermines itself. If our brains are nothing more than chemical reactions from random evolution, why should we trust our thoughts at all?
I'm not an atheist because I see it as a hopeless philosophy, but I also see it as an illogical philosophy.
Only the Christian worldview secures reason, truth, and logic. I've learned so much from Lennox, especially in the way he's able to hear multiple points and still manage to break down each point with analytical precision without having to interrupt or get frustrated. The body has many parts, and though he is much more delicate than me, don't think he's not a warrior for Christ. Just check out how he navigates such a hard question when it comes to the problem of suffering.
I hadn't noticed that in the middle of the room there was a big montage, and it was the gate of Auschwitz, Arbeit macht frei, work will set you free. And she stood, very intelligent architect, put her hands out like this, across the door, and she said, "What does your religion make of that?" And I said, "I wouldn't insult your memory of your parents who were gassed behind those gates by giving you some simple explanation." I said, "You know, you've asked me, and I'm going to answer your question, but it's going to be very difficult. You know that I believe that Jesus, Yeshua, was Hamashiach, the Messiah." And she nodded with her hands still out like this. I said, "The next bit is even harder because he claimed to be God incarnate." Now, I said that's very hard for you to accept, but just try and follow me and try and just accept for a moment that that might be true. You know he died on a cross, and she nodded, still with her hands out like this. I said, "If that's God on the cross, what's it say?" I said, "At the very least, it's telling me that God has not remained distant from the problem of human suffering, but has himself become part of it." And the tears just burst from her face as she still stood forming a cross. And she said these words which I shall never forget. She said, "Why has no one ever told me that about my Messiah before?" He didn't only die, ladies and gentlemen. He rose from the dead. That's what gives me hope.
And that is why I respect him so much. He's been in the spiritual battlefield for much longer, and his experience shines through his words.
If he were telling the truth, he wouldn't have told us.
Unless, of course, he knew you wouldn't believe the truth, even if he told it to you.